this is a revised edition. Revised, it's not a major revision. There are a couple of key points that are revised. We'll discuss that in our conversation. It also includes the Ishavasya Upanishad translation, and this is out from Fingerprint Press. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read a few excerpts. I've given you handouts of what I'm going to read so that you can see how it's laid out. It's the spatial arrangement that I want you to see, which is why it's on a printed sheet. Okay, the first very short excerpt is from the 7th chapter, 7.6 to 7.11. Yeah. Everyone get that. I am the origin, the end of the entire universe. There's no thing higher. It's all strung on me, pearls on a string. Water's flavor, light in moon, sun, Om in all Vedas, sound in etheric space.
Let's start with an obvious but question without an obvious answer, I think. Why do you love the Gita? Or let me rephrase that. Why it often elicits a defensive response. How do you love it? What drew you to the Gita and into such an extended and intimate engagement?
Yeah, thank you. Well, when I read the Gita in Sanskrit, there was also a time when I was refreshing my knowledge of Sanskrit. As I told you, I was trying to rediscover what I knew about our tradition and how it could actually teach me something. I was completely shocked because it was a poem. It was a delightful poem. It had a lot of resonance. It had wordplay, it had a drama, there was a tone, there was a relationship between Krishna and Arjuna, and I had never realized all these various things about it. I thought it was probably a boring speech or something, you know. There is the Peter Brooks Mahabharata. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but there's a scene in which the Gita is represented in that, and the subtitle says, "Where's the action?" And it's a tableau of all the characters just sitting there, and you know, where's the action? Because there's no action happening in that entire Gita. It's one person talking to another person. It's actually more like a monologue, you know, it's not a dialogue. But when I read it in Sanskrit, what I felt was the drama was completely different. Krishna says to Arjuna, Ashocyanam Ashocastvam Prajñavadamsya Bhashase, which is you're grieving for something that doesn't deserve to be grieved over. Sound like when you read it, it's Prajñavadamsya Bhashase. That's the tone, he's mocking it, Arjuna. He's saying, you're not speaking wise words, you're speaking foolish words. It's the opposite meaning. So if you don't catch that tone, and if you simply translate it literally, then you've lost the whole beauty of that, right? Or in the very first verse, normally how is it sung? Normally it's sung, Dharma kshetre guru kshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. That's the normal way of rendering the Gita. When you really think about it, it is Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavaschaiva kimakurvata sanjaya. There's a lot that's gone on in the backdrop.
When you work with a text like the Gita and you're translating it into English, you're inevitably reworking a recitational text into a text that is intended to be read, right? And yet the free verse style that you've adopted allows it to be a text that, at least to me, begs to be read aloud. I found myself when I was preparing for this thing, reading it aloud.
Yeah.
Right? And at the same time, the way you have laid the text out, you read the verses, enables other relationships to be established between the lines and the ideas.
Yeah.
Right? In several of the verses, the way she has laid it out, you can read those verses horizontally, you can read them vertically, or both, right? And in fact, often in these possibilities, there will be one in which the kernel of the entire verse is to be found. And what I find is there's a pedagogical advantage to the method that you adopt.
Yes.
You cannot lazily read this translation. You're required to pause, and our comprehension of your translation and of the verse is dependent on being continually tripped up by the spacing and the line breaks. You read and you think, if she broken the sentence here, dropped that word to the next line, what difference would it have made?
A lot.
A lot.
Everything.
A lot, everything. And in this way, the reader is actively drawn into the text. Reading becomes an act of making meaning. And that's what I found. I'm going to read a couple.
What a close reading. Wow. So the word order is interchangeable. So there's really no need for me to say light, fire, earth, book, teapot in that order. I can change the order completely and it would still mean the same thing, because the vibhaktis are actually attached to the words. But the book is actually draw a line to the book and you've got another descriptor about it. So this is a diagrammatic language, right? And I wanted to bring that same experience in the English.
But it's, I would imagine that it's a very subtle kind of work to take the poetics of the language itself and to transcreate it in English and offer your reader a similar experience.
Yeah.
Experientially,
I would not have been able to translate it any other way. In a translation, I would say fidelity is a given. So that is not even a consideration, because that is understood that it's got fidelity. And every translator will tell you that theirs has got more fidelity than other translators. That's the nature of the art.
It's a very careful translation, and that is abundantly clear. I mean, I was absolutely fascinated by your refusal to use the word indifferent.
Yeah.
You use the word undifferent.
Yeah. Because indifferent now has got all these other connotations of a negative, uncaring person, but actually it is yoga samatvam uchyate. It is about being the same, equanimity and sameness. That's what Krishna talks about. So it is not indifferent, it is undifferent.
Weapons cannot pierce this unpierceable, fire burn who unburnable, water wet you unwettable, wind dry, really undryable are. Okay? Or we can read it, weapons, fire, water, wind cannot pierce, burn, wet, dry. This who you really are, unpierceable, unburnable, unwettable, undryable. And in the kind of spinal column of this who you really are is the point of that teaching.
What you say is that it's poetic, but bereft of a doctrinal approach to either jnana or bhakti or karma, is it possible to interpret or understand each time?
I think that if you read 4 or 5 commentaries, there's no harm, it's not confusing at all. And you can choose what you prefer also. You'll find out what you actually have an inclination towards. You'll find out what is your favorite chapter or your favorite verses.
An absence of an agenda and a viewpoint. So a lot of interpretations have an agenda of conveying something.
I do have a viewpoint though.
But it's not fixed, but open to interpretation. And the diagrammatical way of portraying this kind of reflects that.
Yes.
Some freedom for the reader to kind of see things in his own point of view.
So I guess actually I would say my agenda was as a reader. My agenda is not as a teacher. My agenda was a reader. I was the reader. So my translation is a translation of a reader.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank you,
Mani. That was
Lata.
really lovely. And thank you, everyone.